The massive Imperial flagship Eternal Dawn emerged from hyperspace like a steel mountain against the stars. Its polished hull stretched for 12 kilometers, bristling with weapons that could shatter planets. At its command center, Grand Admiral Vale stood with perfect posture, his decorated uniform reflecting the soft blue glow of tactical displays. Primitive human vessels detected near the asteroid belt. Admiral, reported his sensor officer. 5 ships, approximately 400 meters each. They appear to be mining. Vale smiled. This would be his easiest conquest yet. Humanity had only recently been detected by Imperial scouts, and their addition to the Empire was long overdue. Every species needed to learn its place in the grand order of things. Open communications, Vale commanded. Let's show them the might they face. The human ships hung in space, looking small and vulnerable against the massive asteroid they were harvesting. Their vessels were blocky and functional, with various mining attachments extending from their hulls. Nothing like the sleek Imperial designs that had conquered 1,000 worlds. Inside the lead human vessel, Olympus, Admiral James Porter was enjoying his morning coffee when the communication alert chimed. He set down his favorite World's Okayest Admiral mug and nodded to his communications officer. The holographic display sparked to life, showing the Imperial Admiral in all his decorated glory. Vale's voice boomed through the bridge, translated perfectly into English. Attention, inferior human vessels. You face the might of the Eternal Empire. Your species has been deemed worthy of absorption into our grand civilization. Surrender immediately and prepare for inspection. Resistance will result in your immediate destruction. You have 5 minutes to comply. Porter took another sip of his coffee. He looked at his crew, who were trying very hard to keep straight faces. Some were already snickering behind their hands. His first officer had to turn away, shoulders shaking with suppressed laughter. Did they just try to threaten us with that museum piece? Someone whispered, setting off more barely contained giggles. Porter cleared his throat and activated the response channel. This is Admiral James Porter of the Earth Mining Federation vessel, Olympus. Hello there. I apologize, but could you repeat that? We want to make sure we recorded it properly for posterity. Vale frowned at the casual response. You dare mock the Empire? Our weapons can reduce your ships to atoms. Oh, I'm sure they can, Porter replied cheerfully. Hey, is that a Mark 7 plasma array on your port side? Haven't seen one of those in a museum since I was a kid. Still in working order. Impressive. The Imperial bridge fell silent. Vale's face turned an interesting shade of purple. You recognize our weapons? Oh sure, Porter said, taking another sip of coffee. Classic design. Very reliable for its time. We used something similar for industrial cutting about 70 years ago. Still great for asteroid mining, actually. The laughter on the human bridge was now impossible to contain. Even Porter was grinning broadly. The Empire's sensors couldn't detect the layers of quantum shielding around the human ships or the compressed singularity drives that powered them. They certainly couldn't detect the planet-cracking weapons hidden beneath civilian mining equipment. You will regret this insolence, Vale thundered. You have 3 minutes to surrender. Porter sighed, still smiling. Look, we're a bit busy with this mining operation. Tell you what, why don't you shoot at us if it makes you feel better? Just try not to hit the asteroid. We've got a quota to fill. The Imperial translator must have malfunctioned. Surely no primitive species would dare. Admiral Vale, his science officer interrupted, face pale. I'm detecting some unusual readings from their ships. The energy signatures are impossible. Porter finished his coffee and stood up. Well, if that's all, we really should get back to work. Feel free to stick around and watch if you'd like. We're about to test our new quantum extraction beam. Should be educational. The human crews returned to their work, occasional chuckles still echoing through their ship's halls. Behind them, the mighty Imperial flagship hung in space, its crew trying to understand how their greatest moment of conquest had somehow turned into an embarrassing first day of school. Sometimes, Porter thought, the best defense was a good sense of humor. The Imperial High Command's meeting room was silent except for the soft whir of holographic projectors. 12 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy watched the recording of their encounter with the human ships for the 10th time. "Play it again," ordered High Commander Marcus, his golden robes rustling as he leaned forward. "Focus on the human captain's reaction." The image showed Admiral Porter sipping coffee and smiling. "Oh, is that a Mark 7 plasma array? Haven't seen one of those in a museum since I was a kid." Marcus slammed his fist on the table. How do they even know what our weapons are?" In another part of space, humanity was having a very different meeting. Captain Robert Stone's casual response to the Empire had become the most watched video in human space. His memorable words, "nice like show, but we're trying to work here," had already been printed on thousands of t-shirts. "The memes are spreading faster than we can track them," reported Communications Director Lisa Brown, trying not to smile. "My favorite is the one where they put Imperial ships next to children's toy spaceships. The toys look more advanced." The Earth Defense Council chamber erupted in laughter. Holographic screens showed social media feeds filled with jokes about the Empire's scary weapons. Someone had even created a game where players had to pretend to be scared of obsolete technology. Back on the Imperial flagship, Vale's research team made a disturbing discovery. "Sir," a nervous analyst reported, "we found human entertainment broadcasts dating back 50 years. They're making fun of technology exactly like ours. They've been joking about these kinds of weapons since before they met us." Vale watched an ancient human science fiction show where the heroes easily defeated weapons just like his best cannons. "Impossible. They must have spies in our empire." "That's the strange part, sir," the analyst continued. "We found no evidence of human spies. But we did find this." He played a recording from an old human space station. It showed Imperial scout ships passing nearby, completely unaware they were being watched. The humans on the station were eating popcorn and rating the Imperial ships' designs on a scale of 1 to 10. "The humans have been studying us for decades," Vale realized, his face growing pale. "While we thought we were discovering them. They were watching us like a nature documentary," the analyst finished. "There's a whole series called Galaxy's Funniest Military Blunders that's just recordings of our training exercises." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Emily West of Earth's diplomatic corps was preparing for her first official meeting with the Empire. She stood before a mirror, practicing. No, I can't smile that much," she told herself. "Remember what happened to Jim when he couldn't stop laughing during the Centauri trade talks?" Her computer chimed with a new message. The Empire was demanding an explanation for humanity's behavior. They attached detailed scans of human ships, hoping to prove the humans were lying about their technology. Emily read the scans and had to sit down, shoulders shaking with laughter. The Empire's best sensors had only detected the outer hull's recycling systems. They had completely missed the quantum engines, the dimensional shields, and the AI cores that ran every human ship. "Like checking a smartphone's capabilities by measuring its case," she muttered, wiping tears from her eyes. The Empire's psychological warfare experts were meeting in emergency session. Their best minds tried to understand why their threats had no effect on humans. "Perhaps they don't understand the concept of fear," one suggested. "Maybe their brains process danger differently," offered another. None of them considered the simple truth that humanity had moved so far beyond Imperial technology that their threats were like a child wielding a toy sword. As the Empire scrambled to understand their failure, Admiral Porter's coffee mug became the most popular design in human space. The words "World's Okayest Admiral" were now printed in 20 languages. The Empire was about to learn a valuable lesson. Never try to intimidate someone who's been laughing at you for years. Grand Admiral Vale stood on his bridge, his face set in grim determination. After 3 days of being laughed at by humans, he had finally received permission to demonstrate the Empire's ultimate weapon. "Prepare the Star Splitter," he commanded. "Let's see them laugh at our most powerful cannon." The massive weapon extended from the Eternal Dawn's bow, gathering energy from 3 suns. Lights dimmed across the Imperial fleet as power flowed into the giant barrel. This weapon had destroyed moons. It had shattered fleets. It would surely make the humans tremor in fear. On the human mining ship Olympus, Lieutenant Mary Cooper was eating lunch when her tablet chimed. "Hey, Admiral," she called out to Porter. "They're charging up the big gun. Want me to put it on the main screen?" "Sure," Porter replied, finishing his sandwich. "Anyone want to take bets on how long the charging sequence takes?" These old models were pretty slow. The crew gathered around, many holding phones to record the moment. Some had even brought snacks. The Imperial weapon continued charging, its glow becoming brighter than a sun. Vale's smile grew wider. "Now they will learn respect," he whispered. A message popped up on his screen. The humans were broadcasting something to his ship. He opened the transmission, expecting pleas for mercy. Instead, his bridge was filled with scenes from ancient human movies. Each clip showed weapons exactly like his Star Splitter, some from entertainment made over a century ago. In every scene, the heroes easily defeated or dodged such weapons. Are they using our most feared weapon as entertainment?" Vale's first officer asked in disbelief. The Star Splitter reached full power. Vale straightened his uniform. "Fire," he commanded. A beam of pure destruction, hot enough to melt planets, shot toward the human mining fleet. This was the moment that would finally silence their laughter. The beam hit the lead human ship and splashed off an invisible shield like water hitting a window. "Hey," Lieutenant Cooper called out, not looking up from her lunch. "I think they just shot at us." "Did anyone feel anything?" "Nah," replied another crew member. "The old Mark III shields didn't even flicker." "Should we tell them?" Porter sighed and pressed the communication button. "Imperial vessel Eternal Dawn. While we appreciate the light show, we must point out that firing weapons in an active mining zone violates Section 47B of the Basic Space Safety Code. I'm going to have to write you a citation." Vale stared at his sensors in shock. Not only had their greatest weapon failed to damage the human ships, but now they were being given a safety violation. "Also," Porter continued, "your weapon's efficiency rating is only 12%. You're wasting a lot of energy there. If you'd like, we can recommend some good engineers to help you upgrade to something more environmentally friendly." The human crews had already started sharing videos of the attack. Someone added cartoon sound effects to the beam bouncing off their shields. Another person set it to classical music. Lieutenant Cooper sent a personal message to the Imperial flagship. "Cute light show. Reminds me of the laser pointer my cat plays with." Vale received a priority message from Imperial High Command. They had detected the weapon's use and demanded an explanation. He didn't know how to tell them that their ultimate weapon had just become a source of entertainment for human social media. "Sir," his sensor officer reported quietly, "I'm detecting some unusual readings from the human ships. It seems they're using our weapon's energy to power their coffee makers." In the Olympus's break room, Porter poured himself a fresh cup of coffee, made with recycled energy from the Imperial attack. "You know," he said to his crew, "we should thank them. The coffee tastes better when it's brewed with converted weapon energy." The Empire's most terrifying weapon had failed to destroy the humans. Instead, it had made their beverages more enjoyable. Somewhere in human space, a new T-shirt design appeared. "The Empire shot first. And all I got was this perfectly brewed coffee." After the embarrassing failure of the Star Splitter, the Empire decided to try a different approach. They would scan the human vessels to find any weaknesses. "Full spectrum analysis," Vale ordered, his pride still hurting from the coffee maker incident. "I want to know everything about these ships." The Empire's best scanning equipment activated, probing the human vessels with waves of energy. On the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, dozens of analysts waited for results. Inside the human ship Olympus, the crew's eye assistant, Bob spoke up. "Excuse me, Admiral Porter, but someone is scanning us with primitive technology. Should I help them out?" Porter looked up from his crossword puzzle. "Why not? Give them a peek at the basic stuff. No need to show them anything that might scare them." "Very well," Bob replied. "I'll let them see the recycling system and the backup coffee makers." The Imperial analysts stared at their screens in confusion. "Sir," one called out to Vale, "these readings can't be right. The human ships, they're bigger on the inside than the outside." Vale rushed to look at the data. The first scans showed normal ship compartments, but deeper scans revealed impossible spaces, rooms that shouldn't exist, and energy readings that made no sense. "What do you mean they have a quantum fold in their storage bay?" Vale demanded. "Exactly that, sir. Their cargo hold. It contains more space than physically possible. And there's something else." The analyst's voice trembled. "They're using our scan as a power source. They're charging their entertainment systems with it." On the Olympus, Lieutenant Cooper was watching an old Earth movie on a screen powered by the Imperial scans. "Thanks for the extra power," she sent in a message to the Imperial ship. "The resolution is much better now." Vale's day got worse when his science officer made another discovery. "Sir, remember how we thought their ships were primitive because of all the mining equipment?" "Yes," Vale replied, dreading the answer. "That's not mining equipment." "Well, it is, but it's also everything else. Each piece can transform into about 50 different things. They're using technology that makes our most advanced systems look like stone tools." The Empire's best scientists were called in to study the human ships. Each new discovery made them more uncomfortable. "How are they powering their engines?" one scientist asked. "Which ones?" another replied. "They seem to have 5 different drive systems. One of them is, apparently, running on laughter." "That can't be right." Porter received a message from Earth Command. "Stop letting them scan so deep. You're making them nervous." "Bob," Porter called out to the AI, "maybe dial it back a bit. Show them something simpler." "Too late," Bob replied cheerfully. "They just found the quantum ice cream maker. They seem very confused about how it creates infinite flavors." The Empire's scanning team was indeed baffled. Their best equipment showed human technology that seemed to break every law of physics they knew. Worse, the humans were using this incredible technology for things like making better ice cream and storing extra snacks. "Sir," Vale's first officer reported, "we've detected their defensive systems." "And?" Vale asked, clutching his chair. "They have 3 layers of shielding. The first layer is more advanced than anything we have. The second layer seems to be there just for show. And the third layer." The officer paused. "The third layer appears to be made of pure mathematics. We don't know what that means." Meanwhile, the human crews were taking bets on how long it would take the Empire to find their actual weapons. So far, the Imperial scanners had completely missed the really interesting stuff, like the pocket universe in the engine room or the time loop in the waste disposal system. "Should we tell them about the dragons?" one crew member asked Porter. "Let's not," Porter replied, feeding a quantum biscuit to the ship's pet dragon, which existed in 7 dimensions at once. "They're still trying to understand how our coffee makers work. Besides, Bob is having too much fun showing them the decoy systems." The Empire had wanted to learn about human weaknesses. Instead, they were discovering that humanity had been playing with technology beyond their comprehension all along. Vale stared at the latest scan results and muttered, "How do they fit a water park in there?" After a week of failed scans and increasing confusion, the Empire finally requested a formal meeting with human representatives. They needed answers, even if those answers might hurt their pride. The meeting was set on a neutral space station. The Empire sent their finest diplomats, led by Ambassador Roy from their most prestigious diplomatic academy. Humanity sent Tom Wilson, a retired history teacher who now worked part-time as Earth's ambassador because he thought it would be fun. "Please," Ambassador Roy began, his voice stiff with formal dignity. "Explain how your species achieved such advancement without our knowledge." Tom leaned back in his chair, sipping from a mug that read "Galaxy's Most OK Ambassador." "Well, funny story, actually. We invented faster-than-light travel about 3,000 years ago." The Imperial diplomats stared at him. Ambassador Roy's mouth opened and closed several times before he could speak. That's impossible. The Empire has only existed for 800 years. "Oh, we know," Tom replied cheerfully. "We watched you form." "Quite interesting, really. My granddaughter did her middle school history project on your first expansion period. Got a B+. She would have gotten an A, but she forgot to mention your third emperor's favorite color." The Imperial diplomats looked like they might faint. One was frantically checking historical records on his tablet. "You see," Tom continued, pulling out an ancient paper book, "we decided to stay quiet and observe after our first few contacts with alien life. Fascinating stuff. Watching civilizations develop. We have a whole department of galactic anthropology now." He opened the book, showing them photographs of Imperial ships from centuries ago. "Look, here's your first attempt at a star cruiser. Very creative design for beginners. We all thought the purple stripes were a nice touch." Ambassador Roy's face had turned an interesting shade of green. You've been watching us all this time?" "Oh yes," Tom nodded. "We have a tourist spot on Europa where people can watch Imperial ships pass by. The gift shop does quite well. The plush toys of your warships are especially popular with children." The truth hit the Imperial delegation like a quantum brick. Humanity hadn't just achieved technological superiority. They had been so far advanced that they treated the Empire like an interesting historical curiosity. But what about the threats out there?" Ambassador Roy sputtered. "The cosmic horrors. The space monsters. We protect the galaxy from them." Tom's smile became a bit gentler. About that. Those space monsters you occasionally fight. They're actually the ones we let through. The small ones. The cute ones. Like keeping a manageable number of mice to help train cats." He pulled up a holographic display showing creatures that made the Empire's worst nightmares look like puppies. "These are the ones we deal with. We call this fellow Bob. He tries to eat reality every few centuries. Nice chap once you get to know him, though. Plays excellent chess." The Imperial diplomats watched in horror as Tom showed them footage of humanity casually containing threats that could swallow solar systems. "So you see," Tom explained, pulling out a cookie jar from seemingly nowhere, "we're not laughing at you because we're mean. We're laughing because it's like watching our own ancient history." "Cookie." He offered the jar around. "They're baked in a quantum oven. Each one tastes like your favorite flavor." One brave Imperial diplomat took a cookie. His eyes widened as he tasted it. It tastes like my mother's cooking from when I was a child." "Neat, right?" Tom grinned. "Simple application of probability manipulation and memory extraction. We figured that out back when we were first learning to make toast in higher dimensions." As the meeting concluded, Ambassador Roy had one last question. "Why reveal all this now?" Tom stood up, straightening his "just here for the snacks" t-shirt. "Because it's time for the galaxy to move forward. Also, our Department of Galactic Development thought it would be good for your cultural growth. And honestly, maintaining our primitive species disguise was getting tiring. Do you know how hard it is to pretend our ships don't run on laughter?" The Empire had come seeking answers. Instead, they found out they were living in humanity's galaxy aquarium. And the fish had just learned to talk back. 3 days after the truth about humanity was revealed, the Imperial High Council called an emergency meeting. Their entire civilization's status was at stake, and they needed to find a way to maintain their dignity. High Commander Marcus stood before the council, sweating slightly in his ceremonial robes. "We must offer them an alliance," he declared. "A generous one, before other species realize what's happening." Meanwhile, in the human diplomatic office on Earth, Ambassador Tom Wilson was playing holographic solitaire while floating a few inches above his chair. "How generous do you think they'll try to be?" he asked his AI assistant. "Based on imperial psychological patterns," the AI replied, "they'll offer us exactly 23.7% more than they've ever offered anyone else. They'll also throw in 3 symbolic systems and their priceless collection of ancient technology." Tom chuckled. "You mean the collection they bought from that human antiques dealer last year? The one full of old toasters and microwave ovens?" "The same one," the AI confirmed. "They still haven't figured out why the sacred relics have defrost settings." The Empire's delegation arrived right on schedule in their grandest diplomatic vessel. They had spent hours practicing their most impressive entrance. The ship's doors opened with a majestic whoosh, releasing perfectly timed clouds of dramatic smoke. Tom watched them while eating a sandwich that existed in 3 time periods simultaneously. "Should we tell them their smoke machine is from a human Halloween store?" he whispered to his assistant. "Let them have this one," the AI replied kindly. Ambassador Roy stepped forward with practiced grace. "Noble representatives of Earth," he began, his voice echoing through the chamber, "the Eternal Empire wishes to extend its most generous offer of alliance." "Oh, good," Tom said, wiping future crumbs from his present shirt. "We were hoping you'd want to be friends. Much better than this whole surrender or die business." The Imperial delegation launched into their carefully prepared speech, complete with holographic displays of their territory and resources. They offered protection, trade rights, and access to their advanced technology. And of course, Ambassador Roy concluded triumphantly, "we would share our military might to defend your worlds." There was a moment of awkward silence. "That's very kind," Tom replied diplomatically, "but I should mention that we turned Jupiter into a sentient defense system last Tuesday. It keeps asking for crossword puzzles to solve between defending the solar system." The Imperial delegates blinked in confusion. You weaponized a gas giant." "Not weaponized," Tom corrected. "We just gave it consciousness and a subscription to several puzzle magazines. It gets bored otherwise." "Nice fellow, really. Tells terrible dad jokes, though." Before the Empire could respond, messages started pouring in from across the galaxy. Other species had learned about humanity's true status. The Zorb Confederation wanted protection. The Linked Worlds sought technology trading. The Crystal Mines requested human teachers. Ambassador Roy watched his carefully prepared offer crumble as more and more civilizations turned to Earth for leadership instead of the Empire. "Don't worry," Tom said kindly, seeing their distress. "We've actually prepared our own alliance offer." He pulled out a document that unfolded into impossible shapes. "Pretty simple stuff, really. You keep managing your local sector, we help upgrade your technology, and everyone gets access to our ice cream makers." That's it," Ambassador Roy asked suspiciously. "No demands for surrender? No humiliating conditions?" "Well," Tom admitted, "we did include a requirement for your ships to have better coffee machines. The ones you're using now are practically medieval. Also, Jupiter insists that everyone subscribe to at least one puzzle magazine." The Empire's representatives huddled together, whispering frantically. Their choices were clear. Accept humanity's surprisingly reasonable offer, or become irrelevant as the rest of the galaxy rushed to ally with Earth. "We accept," Ambassador Roy said finally, trying to maintain his dignity. "Excellent," Tom beamed. "Let's celebrate. Would anyone like a cookie? They're baked in a pocket dimension where calories don't exist." As the Imperial diplomats cautiously tried the impossible cookies, they realized something important. Being friends with humanity might be strange, but it was definitely going to be interesting. And delicious. 6 months after the Empire signed humanity's alliance treaty, the galaxy had become a very different place. Change was everywhere, especially in the former Imperial capital, where a human tech support office had become the busiest building in the city. "No, Your Highness," explained Mike from tech support to a frustrated Imperial governor. "You can't feed your quantum computer after midnight. That's why it started singing opera. He paused, listening. Yes, I know the opera is quite good, but that's not what the computer is for. Across the galaxy, scenes of cultural exchange were playing out in unexpected ways. On a former Imperial warship, Captain Jane Baker was teaching the crew how to upgrade their engines. And this, she said, holding up what looked like a small teacup, is a basic infinite energy core. It runs on happy thoughts and cat videos. But that's impossible, protested an Imperial engineer. Impossible. Jane laughed. We figured this out before we invented shoes that tie themselves. Which, by the way, took us embarrassingly long. Sometimes the simple things are the hardest. In Earth's primary school classrooms, children were now taking basic galactic history. Today's lesson was about the Empire's first contact with humanity. And that's why we have Bring Your Imperial Friend to School Day. A teacher explained to her class. Remember, kids, don't make fun of their old technology. They're learning. The Empire's former military headquarters had been converted into a museum. The infamous Star Splitter weapon was now a popular exhibit, right next to humanity's first faster-than-light coffee maker. The placard read, "Both these devices run on similar principles. One destroys planets, the other makes a perfect latte. Guess which one we considered more important to develop?" Admiral Porter, now retired, sat in his garden watching Imperial ships learning to navigate Earth's solar system. Jupiter, now fully sentient, and a crossword puzzle champion, kept giving them directions. A little to the left. Jupiter's huge voice boomed across space. "No, your other left. Look, just follow the helpful dolphins I created from hydrogen." Yes, those glowing ones. The Empire scientists were having the time of their lives. Humanity had opened thousands of research centers where they could learn about advanced technology. The only rule was that everyone had to take regular breaks for ice cream and jokes. Today, announced Dr. Smith at the Galactic Science Academy, we'll learn why time is actually more like a bowl of spaghetti than a straight line. But first, who wants to see a cat that exists in all dimensions at once? Even the Imperial High Command had changed. Their once serious meeting room now had a casual Friday policy and a quantum vending machine that could produce any snack from any point in history. "Your reports are late," High Commander Marcus told his officers, "but I'll accept them yesterday." He paused. "That's not a figure of speech anymore. Just use the temporal mailbox in the lobby." Ambassador Tom Wilson, still working part-time because he found it amusing, received a message from the Imperial Council. They had finally finished reading humanity's complete technological database. Did they understand it? He asked his AI assistant. "They got through the introduction to the introduction," the AI replied. "They're very excited about learning there's more than 3 dimensions, though they're a bit worried about the part where we mentioned that numbers have feelings." The galaxy was changing, growing, and learning. Former Imperial citizens discovered that life was much more fun when you didn't take yourself too seriously. Other species found that humanity's way of mixing advanced science with simple pleasures made the universe a more interesting place. And somewhere in deep space, Vale, the former Grand Admiral who had first encountered human ships, was enjoying his retirement. He sat in his garden, drinking coffee from a quantum-powered maker, watching his grandchildren play with a pet dragon that humanity had given them as a peace gift. "You know," he said to the dragon, which existed in 7 dimensions, and loved playing fetch, "I'm glad we didn't succeed in conquering them." "This is much better." The dragon agreed, then asked if he wanted to play interdimensional chess. Vale smiled. Life in humanity's galaxy was strange, but it was never boring. And the coffee was excellent.